Welcome to the Facilitators Deep Dive Podcast, your podcast on your way to facilitation mastery.
All right, Conversation Café. It might sound like where you grab a cuppa and complain about the weather. But trust me, this deep dive is going to blow your mind. We're talking about a method that can seriously upgrade your communication skills, whether it's for those intense team meetings, navigating tricky family discussions, or even just understanding how to have productive conversations online.
What's fascinating is that the name actually points to the heart of the method, creating a space for genuine connection. Think about those late-night talks where you actually connect with someone. The Conversation Café helps you bottle that magic and unleash it in any group setting.
So we're not just making small talk here. This is about tackling profound challenges and actually getting somewhere.
Right, and the cool part is, it's just one tool out of 33 in a framework called Liberating Structures. Imagine a whole toolbox full of ways to make meetings and group discussions way more engaging and effective. But for today, let's focus on mastering this one powerful tool, the Conversation Café.
A whole toolbox. I'm already intrigued. So how do we actually set up this Conversation Café? Is it complicated?
It's surprisingly simple. The magic lies in these 5 core elements that work together to create a truly transformative conversation experience.
5 elements. Okay, I'm taking notes. Hit me with the first one.
The first is the invitation. And it's more than just sending a calendar invite. It's about setting the tone for a deep, meaningful conversation. Think of it as an invitation to engage with a tough question or challenge, and making it clear that everyone's voice is valued and welcome.
So right from the start, we're creating an inclusive atmosphere. That's great. What about the space element? Are we talking mood lighting and comfy couches?
Again, simplicity is key.
Yeah.
Picture this. You're in a circle of chairs, which immediately creates a sense of equality. And here's the twist. There's a talking object in the center.
Wait, a talking object, like a chatbot that mediates the conversation?
Not quite. It can be anything. A stone, a pen, even a stuffed animal. Whoever holds it has the floor, ensuring everyone gets their turn to speak uninterrupted. And you'd be surprised how even the choice of object can add a symbolic layer to the conversation.
Okay, that's a brilliant way to manage the flow and make sure everyone feels heard. No more interrupting colleagues or that one person who dominates the conversation. All right, what about participation? Is there a secret handshake I need to learn?
No secret handshakes. But there is a fundamental principle. Everyone gets an equal chance to contribute. The talking object helps, but it's also about creating a culture of respect and active listening. You know those meetings where the loudest voice wins? Not in a Conversation Café.
You're telling me that if I use this method, even that one colleague who always seems to hijack the conversation won't be able to? I'm definitely seeing the appeal here. Okay, what about groups? How many people are we talking about?
Small and intimate is best. 5 to 7 people per table. It encourages deeper connection and allows for more meaningful exchanges within the group.
This is more like a close-knit gathering than a company-wide town hall.
Got it. All right, we've covered invitations, space, participation, and groups. What's the final element that ties it all together? The sequence. The Conversation Café follows a specific 4-round structure to ensure the conversation flows smoothly and everyone gets heard.
Okay, lay it on me. What are the 4 rounds?
In the first 2 rounds, the talking object is the star. Everyone gets a focused moment to share their initial thoughts and feelings, preventing anyone from dominating. It's like setting the stage and letting everyone process their own thoughts before the discussion opens up.
That makes a lot of sense. So it's not just about jumping into a debate. It's about taking the time to hear each individual voice first. I like that. What happens next?
Then comes round 3, the main event. It's an open discussion where participants can freely share their perspectives, build on each other's ideas, and really delve into the complexities of the issue at hand. It's where the real magic happens. But even then, it's not a free-for-all. We come back to that structure for the final round.
So it's a balance between structure and freedom. What happens in this final round?
In round 4, we bring back the talking object for key takeaways and reflections. It's a chance to ask, what did we learn? What resonated with us? Where do we go from here?
I'm already starting to see how this structured approach, with the talking object in these 4 rounds, could lead to a much more insightful and productive conversation than just letting everyone speak whenever they want. It's almost like we're carefully constructing a multi-course meal instead of just grabbing random snacks.
That's a great analogy. The structure helps ensure everyone gets a chance to savor each course and digest the ideas fully. And just like a good meal, the Conversation Café leaves you feeling satisfied and energized, not drained and frustrated.
You're making me hungry with all these food analogies, but I get it, so we've got the structure down. But why use this method in the first place? What makes the Conversation Café so special?
Ah, the why is where things get really exciting. You see, the Conversation Cafe isn't just about solving problems. It's about creating a space where profound things can happen. For example, our source material highlights how communities use this method after 9/11 to process that collective trauma and find connection during a time of intense pain and uncertainty.
Wow, that's powerful. I can see how this seemingly simple technique could have a profound impact in a situation like that. You know, I bet a lot of people listening right now can relate to that feeling of being overwhelmed by current events. Or just the constant stream of information we're bombarded with online. It can feel like chaos.
Exactly. And the Conversation Cafe can be a powerful antidote to that chaos. It provides a framework for creating order out of that chaos and finding meaning in challenging situations. But it's not just for navigating major crises. This tool can be applied to everyday life as well.
Like what? Give me some
Yeah.
examples.
Well, the source material also mentions using it to generate new ideas for work, family, or personal life. Let's say your team is stuck in a creative rut, or your family is struggling to make a big decision. A Conversation Cafe can help break free from those old patterns of thinking and open up to new possibilities.
So it's not just about fixing what's broken, it's about fostering deeper understanding, connection, and even sparking creativity.
Absolutely. It's like hitting a reset button for any group, allowing for fresh perspectives and new insights to emerge.
I'm starting to see the versatility of this tool. It's like having a Swiss Army knife for communication. Okay, so we've covered the what and the why. Now I need the expert tips.
Yeah.
What are some common traps to avoid when setting up our own Conversation Cafe?
One thing the source material emphasizes is the importance of that talking object. It might be tempting to think of it as just a cute prop, but it's actually the key to creating that structured and respectful environment. Without it, things can easily devolve into chaos.
You mentioned chaos. What are some other things that can go wrong if we're not careful?
Well, remember those 6 agreements we touched on earlier? Those are like the guardrails for the conversation, the guidelines that keep things flowing smoothly and respectfully.
You piqued my curiosity with those agreements. Remind me, what are they exactly?
Think of them as 6 simple but powerful principles that create the foundation for a truly transformative conversation.
Okay, hit me with the first one.
First, we have focus on what matters. This is all about staying on topic and resisting those tempting tangents that can derail a conversation. It's like having a gentle guide who keeps steering the ship back on course.
We've all been in those meetings that go off on wild tangents and end up nowhere, so stay focused. Got it. What's next?
Next is speak your mind and heart. This is where the real magic happens. It's about encouraging people to be authentic and vulnerable, to share what they really think and feel, not just what they think they should say.
So creating a safe space for honesty, even if those opinions are different from the norm, that resonates with me. What about the third agreement?
The third agreement is listen with attention. Seems obvious, but it's a skill that's becoming increasingly rare. It's about being fully present, truly hearing what others are saying, without just waiting for your turn to speak.
Active listening. It's like a superpower these days, and I'm guessing agreement number 4 builds on that.
You got it. It's listen for insights. This goes beyond just hearing the words, to trying to understand the deeper meaning behind them. What's the speaker's perspective? What are they trying to convey? What can we learn from their experience?
So it's not just about absorbing information, it's about seeking understanding and uncovering those hidden gems of wisdom that each person brings to the table. I like that. What about the 5th agreement?
The 5th one is suspend certainty. This is about being willing to question our own assumptions and be open to other points of view, recognizing that we don't have all the answers and that there's always more to learn. It's about approaching the conversation with a sense of curiosity and humility, rather than clinging to our own beliefs.
It's like saying, I might be wrong, and that's okay. Which, let's be honest, is a pretty radical idea in today's world where everyone seems so convinced they're right.
It is radical. It's incredibly powerful. It's about shifting from a mindset of I know to a mindset of I wonder. And finally, we have the 6th agreement, which might seem like a no-brainer, but it's worth emphasizing. Respect each other.
Okay, respect. Seems straightforward enough. But what does that look like in practice, especially when discussing those hot-button topics where people tend to get fired up?
It's about remembering that behind every opinion, every perspective, is a human being with their own unique experiences and stories. It's about treating everyone with kindness and consideration, even when, especially when, we disagree.
It sounds like these 6 agreements create a foundation for not just respectful dialogue, but for a deeper kind of human connection. It's not about avoiding conflict altogether, but about approaching it with curiosity, empathy, and a willingness to understand.
You've hit the nail on the head. The Conversation Cafe isn't about erasing differences. It's about creating a space where those differences can be explored and appreciated, where we can learn from each other and grow together.
I'm realizing that these agreements could be applied to any conversation, not just those held within a formal Conversation Cafe structure. It's like a blueprint for having better conversations in all areas of life.
Absolutely. They're universal principles that can transform the way we communicate. But let's get back to those practical tips for setting up a successful Conversation Cafe. One of the biggest traps people fall into is trying to turn it into a problem-solving session or a task force meeting.
So resist the urge to jump into solution mode.
Exactly. The purpose of the Conversation Cafe is shared understanding, not necessarily coming up with concrete action items. Let the conversation flow organically, trust the process, and allow those insights to emerge naturally.
I'm sensing a theme here. It's about letting go of control and embracing the unknown. It's about trusting that the wisdom and creativity are already present within the group, and that the Conversation Cafe is simply a way to unlock that potential.
That's beautifully put. It's about creating the conditions for something special to happen, something that might surprise us, something that we couldn't have planned or predicted.
Okay, I'm feeling inspired. But before we send our listeners off to brew up their own Conversation Cafes, I have one more question. The source material mentions wicked questions as a way to deepen the conversation. What are those, and how do they fit into the Conversation Cafe?
Wicked questions. They're like little sparks that ignite the imagination and push the conversation to a whole new level. They're questions designed to challenge assumptions, provoke deeper thinking, and uncover those hidden biases we might not even be aware of.
So they're not your typical yes or no questions. They're designed to shake things up a bit.
Exactly. They're meant to be thought-provoking and potentially even a bit uncomfortable. But that's where the real growth happens.
Give me an example of a wicked question. I'm curious to see how these work in practice.
Let's say you're discussing a workplace challenge. Instead of asking, how can we solve this problem? A wicked question might be, what if the problem isn't the problem, but the way we're thinking about it?
Whoa. Mind blown. That's not a question I would have thought to ask. But I can already see how it would shift the entire conversation to a whole new level of depth and complexity.
And that's the power of wicked questions. They force us to step outside our comfort zones, to consider new perspectives, and to embrace the ambiguity and complexity of the situation.
So it's about getting comfortable with not having all the answers.
Exactly. It's about embracing the not knowing and trusting that the answers will emerge through the process of inquiry and dialogue.
This is all starting to sound very philosophical, but I'm loving it. Okay. I'm feeling pretty confident about setting up a basic Conversation Cafe and even throwing in some wicked questions for good measure. But I'm also curious about those riffs and variations mentioned in the source material. What are some ways we can customize this technique and make it our own?
That's where things get really fun. Remember how we talked about liberating structures being a toolbox filled with 33 different tools? Well, you can mix and match those tools, blending them with the Conversation Cafe to create something truly unique and tailored to your specific needs.
Okay, you've got my attention. What are some examples of these riffs and variations? Give me the inside scoop.
One popular variation is the World Cafe style. Imagine you have a large group and want to encourage even more interaction and cross-pollination of ideas.
I'm picturing a bustling cafe with people moving from table to table, swapping stories and insights.
You got it. In a World Cafe, participants rotate to different tables every 20 minutes or so, bringing their unique perspectives to each new group. It's a fantastic way to break down silos, foster collaboration, and generate a wealth of new ideas.
World Cafe. I'm adding that to my list. What else can we do to spice things up?
If you're a visual person, you might consider incorporating graphic recording. Imagine having someone capture the key insights and themes of the conversation visually on a large sheet of paper or whiteboard. It's like creating a living mural of the conversation, a tangible representation of the collective wisdom and creativity of the group.
I love that idea. It's like turning abstract thoughts into a work of art. It would be so cool to have that visual reminder of the conversation long after it's over.
Exactly. It's a powerful way to make the abstract tangible and to create a shared sense of meaning and purpose.
World Cafe, graphic recording, wicked questions. The possibilities are endless. This is so much more than just a meeting format. It's like a whole new way of thinking about communication and collaboration.
It is. It's about shifting from a mindset of competition to a mindset of cooperation. It's about recognizing that we're all in this together and that we can achieve far more when we work together, listen to each other, and embrace the diversity of perspectives.
It's like we're creating a symphony of ideas, with each individual voice contributing to the richness and beauty of the whole.
That's a beautiful way to put it.
I'm feeling pretty inspired. But before we wrap up, I want to circle back to something you mentioned earlier about the Conversation Café being used to navigate politically charged topics.
Yeah.
We live in a time where it's becoming increasingly difficult to have civil discussions about issues that people feel strongly about. How can the Conversation Café help bridge that divide?
That's a great question, and it's one of the most exciting applications of this technique. The Conversation Café provides a framework for having those difficult conversations with grace and respect, even when, especially when, we hold opposing views.
So it's not about trying to convert people to our way of thinking. It's about creating a space where we can listen to each other and maybe even find common ground.
Exactly. It's about shifting the goal from winning an argument to understanding each other's perspectives, even if we don't ultimately agree.
I can see how that would be incredibly valuable in today's world, where it feels like we're constantly bombarded with opposing viewpoints and echo chambers. The Conversation Café could be a way to step out of those echo chambers and into a space of genuine dialogue and connection.
It's about creating those bridges instead of building walls.
I love that. And it's not just about politics.
Right.
Think about any situation where emotions run high, family disagreements, workplace conflicts, even those heated debates that tend to erupt on social media. The Conversation Café could be a game changer in any situation where people need to communicate more effectively and respectfully.
You're absolutely right. It's a versatile tool that can be applied to any situation where we need to create a space for meaningful dialogue and understanding.
It feels like we're talking about more than just a communication technique here. It's almost like a philosophy for a better way of interacting with each other, a way to create more understanding and connection in a world that often feels very divided.
I think you've hit the nail on the head. At its core, the Conversation Café is about recognizing the inherent value and wisdom within each individual. It's about creating a space where those voices can be heard, where differences are respected, and where we can learn from each other's experiences.
So it's not about erasing our differences, it's about leveraging them to create something even more powerful and insightful.
Exactly. It's about embracing the diversity of perspectives and recognizing that those differences are what make the conversation rich and meaningful.
I don't know about you, but I'm feeling pretty pumped about the Conversation Café. It's simple, it's adaptable, and it's clearly incredibly powerful. We've journeyed through the 5 structural elements, unpacked the 6 agreements that form its foundation, and even glimpsed into the vast world of liberating structures with its treasure trove of collaborative tools. But before we wrap up, I want to bring it back to our listener. What's the one thing you hope they take away from this deep dive?
I hope they walk away feeling empowered. Empowered to have those difficult conversations, to tackle complex challenges, and to create more meaningful connections in their lives. The Conversation Café isn't a magic bullet, but it is a powerful tool that can help us navigate the complexities of the world with more grace, understanding, and empathy. And the best part is, it's a tool that's available to everyone.
It's like we're giving our listeners a superpower, the superpower of compassionate communication.
I love that analogy. And like any superpower, it takes practice and intention to master, but the rewards are well worth the effort.
So, dear listener, as we finish our deep dive into the Conversation Café, I want to leave you with a challenge. Think about a recent conversation that went off the rails. Maybe it was a tense family discussion, a frustrating team meeting, or even just an online debate that left you feeling drained and disillusioned.
Yeah.
Imagine how that conversation could have unfolded differently if you had used the Conversation Café method. How could those 5 structural elements have created a more structured and respectful space? How could those 6 agreements have guided the conversation toward understanding and connection, rather than conflict and division?
And if you're feeling really adventurous, I encourage you to gather a group of friends, colleagues, or family members, and try hosting your own Conversation Café. Choose a topic that you're passionate about. Set the stage with those 5 elements and let the magic unfold. You might be surprised by what emerges.
Who knows? Maybe that one conversation will spark a new idea, a new connection, or even a new way of being in the world. The possibilities are truly endless.
And remember, there's a whole toolbox of liberating structures out there waiting to be explored. So keep learning, keep experimenting, and keep having those courageous conversations that make a difference.
Until next time, happy conversing.
See you next time on the Facilitators Deep Dive Podcast, your podcast on your way to facilitation mastery. Until next time.
See you then.